tank of gas? Does he boots on the wood, let the whiskey pass? I ain't preaching from a pulpit, I'm talking from the sky.
Welcome back, guys, once again to the FAFO Podcast. And boy, you know this is one of my favorite things to do, interview fellow authors. Why? Because I learn so much, and it's nice to meet people who are so much more talented in the writing scape than I am. Now, let's just face it. It's not too difficult to look in the mirror and see the truth. But that's how you improve, isn't it? That's how you improve. You got to be able to do those things. And my next guest, when I booked this one, I knew I wanted to talk to her because she has such a fascinating story. And I can't wait to dive into it a little bit because, you know, I hate flying. I haven't been out of the continental U.S. Well, our next guest has not had that issue. And this is going to be a lot of fun to jump into. So, and you've heard me say this a billion times. Everyone has a story. But not everyone has the courage to tell it. Today's guest has built a career helping others, overcoming challenges, and discovering what real success looks like. Whether your passion is business, leadership, personal growth, or making a difference, this conversation is packed with lessons anyone can use. And let me explain to you, when we get into talking about exactly how she's learned those lessons and where her travels have taken her, you're going to be every bit as fascinated as I am. So without further ado, please welcome my guest today, Jodie Cowles. Jodie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this one. I've been looking forward to it because your story is interesting. I mean, when I was reading your profile, it says you spent half your life living overseas and elsewhere. How did all of that come about?
Well, I blame it all on my parents, as we usually do.
Sure.
My mom was in the military, and she was an Army nurse. And so they took me to Germany when I was about 4 months old. So I blame them for my wandering life after that. But it was about half of my adult life is kind of how I did the math. So I graduated from college and jetted off to South Korea to teach English. And then I came back and worked corporate and all of that for 10 or 15 years. And then I went back overseas, and we've now been home 4 years. But yeah, I worked for an NGO for a lot of years, and I did a lot of traveling and living in different countries. And then my husband and I got married and lived in Turkey for 8 years. So yeah, I've been in a few different countries, but it's all my parents' fault.
That's usually how it starts, isn't it? It's usually how it starts. But I love the fact that you've been so many places. And as I said in my opening monologue, that I'm a habitual scaredy cat when it comes to flying. So I have a little comment in the U.S. But what is that like when you're living in another country and even coming back and then going back and living out of country again and doing that, especially in a country like Turkey? How is that?
I always struggle to answer that. It was great. The people are lovely. They're warm and hospitable. They could not have been kinder in welcoming us and having patience with our learning of the language and our crazy different cultures, because you're always doing things differently. And you know, some cultures, for instance, I lived in Spain for a while, and they're a much colder, they were much harder in, you know, like a harder countenance and not super welcoming. So I always compare the Turks to the Spaniards, and they both have benefits and challenges, but I found the Turks very warm and welcoming. But we also lived through the almost coup, and we lived through COVID over there, and we adopted our daughter in Turkey, and it was supposed to be a year turned into 4. So I have a complicated history with Turkey, that, you know, just you get living life, you get a little bit of complicated history, but in general, Turkey is amazing. And in general, living abroad in various circumstances really widened my view of the world, and I think made me more interested in bridge building and peacemaking, and let's just have a conversation. We don't have to like snipe at each other from our different, what's the word? when we soapboxes, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No,
We don't need to snipe at each other. Like, let's just have a conversation. And I think you get that when you spend a little bit more time outside of, like, okay, you don't have to leave the United States. Just go to a different neighborhood with a little bit different subculture and invite somebody to coffee or a beer or whatever that's different from you, and have a conversation across the table.
And it's so very true. I mean, especially with the climate we're in now, and that's just not politically, but the way that the world is. Like, everybody has to be right. They have to be the knowledge point. They have to be the ones, and then the way media is across the board from whatever view you look at that at. I mean, you're being fed what you should believe in instead of talking to people and finding out what life really is. I think the World Cup was a great example of that. Coming here and everybody's going, oh, you have such an amazing country. What are you people complaining about? And it really does open your eyes to how the rest of the world sees us. But then you go to these other countries and you are able to see their world from a place you didn't know of until you get there. And you end up with a beautiful blessing coming out of Turkey when it's all said and done anyway. So when you're talking to people about that, is it hard to really get that viewpoint across, to get them to see that, the world is so different than what you really believe on a day-to-day basis?
I think it is hard, but it's a one-on-one conversation, and you try to see where people are, and you try to meet them where you are. I think I learned that as well. Like you just said, we're in a particular time of history and culture where everybody wants to be exactly right. And they want to, we want to share what we believe about every topic. And we want you to agree, you got to agree with me on every topic, or we can't even have dinner together,
So
and I think you and I can probably find 17 things that we agree with. Why don't we talk about those things? Why do we have to go to the exact thing that we actually have deeply held beliefs that are not in common? And it's okay to not say that. We don't have to say every, you know what I mean? So I think it's it's an interesting cultural moment where we're so intent on finding the places of division when there are so many points where we're just human beings, and most of us are trying our best.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And if you didn't know anybody's certain point of view on certain things, you would be amazed at how many people you just would get along with normally if it wasn't for hot button issues or any of that stuff. So I 100% agree with you. And think of all the relationships you miss by living your life through that lens, instead of just going, we have differences. That's fine. You're going to have yours. I'm going to have mine. But let's talk about some of the stuff we enjoy and build an actual relationship, whether it's acquaintances, friends, or whatever, or just as human beings. And let's do that. So I love that answer, and I love that point of view because it mirrors exactly my own. And it's so funny in my writing. Like in my writing, I write fiction though, and I stay away from a lot of stuff. So I write a lot of fiction. I actually don't pull a lot of my personal viewpoints into my writing.
How do you manage that?
It's not easy. I'm making a voice saying, you know what I'm going to do? I mean, there are certain things like feeling wise, sure. But when it comes to like politics or even religion, things I am passionate about privately, I don't put that in my writing because I'm not trying to alienate anybody. I want to create worlds where you can get away from that stuff and enjoy what it is you're going to be in. And yet sometimes I'll find myself slipping into it and go, hold on, buddy. Now, how do you approach writing? Because I am interested how that works.
I think it's fascinating what you just said. I'm exactly the opposite. So I've written 5 fiction books that are out, and I've got 2 more in the works. But the last book that I just put out was a memoir. And so my first nonfiction, and that's what I've been talking to people about lately. But I have always written, I prefer fiction because I think you can talk about things that maybe we have a hard time talking about. And you give people language, and you give them, just like a good movie, a good book, you can almost inhabit. You can invite your reader in, and they inhabit the world with you, and you have beautiful stories that touch the heart, and you have conversations that maybe give you language to have a conversation with somebody in your life. So my fiction is super, super personal. And it's usually something I'm wrestling with. So I wrote a book called Some Wandered in the Desert, which was about an international aid worker getting kidnapped in North Africa, because I was an international aid worker in North Africa worried about getting kidnapped. So I wrote this whole thing kind of thinking through what would I hopefully do or not do in that scenario. And I wrote when we were our 7th year of 8 years in Turkey, it was very difficult. The adoption process was lingering way longer than it should have. We couldn't leave, all of these things. So I decided to write a comedy. I'd never written a comedy before. And I wrote a comedy about an international teacher coming to live in Istanbul, which is not what I did, but I was able to pour a lot of my experience into it, and I was able to remember the things that I loved about Turkey and the really, I mean, hilarious things that happen when you live in a different culture. And so I think writing for me is a very therapeutic process, and it's me trying to work out some question that I have or some crisis that I have, and I'm trying to reach across to my reader in the same way, let's have a conversation across the table. It's just mostly me talking, but it's that same style.
Yeah, no, I get, no, that I understand that. I said I wasn't even going to talk about this, but so I wrote this book, The Suicidal Mind, which is actually a memoir and a biography written from a totally fictional point of view, because apparently I can't write straight nonfiction. It's just not going to happen. Yeah. But it is the same thing where you're pouring everything of you into it. And so I do find that is true. And I do find myself doing that. If I write about aliens, it's because that I like aliens. So, open to the concept. Let's go. So when you're writing, what is your process like? Because I checked out your website and I saw the books. I'm like, these will be interesting reads right here. So I'm probably gonna have to get a couple of them for sure. I know of.
I hope you will. Dude, don't forget to write a review.
That's the hardest thing in the world to get.
It's like our continual, please, my friends, please. My process. So it is, I have no process. I fit it in. I feel, it's kind of a funny cliche, but a creative burden, right? I've heard that term before, but I think that's right. I feel a weight when I need to write. And so it ebbs and flows. And I've been writing, my first book came out 20 years ago, approximately. And so I've been writing in different stages, different processes. The last book I wrote, the memoir, which was, its own kind of excruciating. So I don't recommend it, but I wrote it every morning for a year at 5 a.m. I got up and worked on it for an hour and a half. And I just gutted it out and cried and then went on with my day. So memoirs are a particular kind of difficult, but I've written from 8 to midnight for 6 months. My husband has given me the blessing of a weekend away. So I go to a hotel for 3 days and I just write in a fugue, So I'm very much most of the time I'm all in and then nothing for 6 months and then all in. And
actually that is interesting though, and that's why I asked that question, because it's so different for every writer. It seems like that I talk to. Whatever, like someone says, well, how do you write? How do I learn to write? Tell me how you write so I'll know how. Like I can't tell you that. I can tell you what my process is, how I do it. Yeah. But that may not be your thing. I mean, because I had to learn how to outline, and I hate outlines because it took me 14 years to write my first book. And I stuck a little over halfway and I didn't know where to go. Yeah. And I just, for 14 years, all I did was rewrite the first half of my book. And then a lovely lady she's the mother of the guy who owns a theater here. She said, when are you going to finish your book? Because I put out a novella, see if anybody was interested 14 years ago. And she's always on me. When are you going to finish it? So I'm like, you need to sit down and do that before, she doesn't have the ability to ever read this thing she keeps being interested about. So I'm like, well, I don't know how to do it because I have writer's block. I can't get that. And I outlined it. I'm like, I'm just going to do this stupid thing because I hate outlining. And oh my God, outlining is my favorite thing in the world to do because after I outlined it, I had the book done in 2 months.
Yeah.
And and I have learned that is now my process because now I can't stop writing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Which I love because that's all I've ever wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, I would give up everything else in my life quickly if I could just write full time. What is your true passion in life?
What a great question. You know, I think storytelling is a passion that has run through my life. And I'm a faith-based person. And I think in storytelling and in faith, you're trying to walk people toward healing. And I think that that's off the cuff how I would answer you. I want people to examine their lives and heal and recover. I had some childhood trauma, and so it took me a long time to process grief and heal and recover. And so I find that process so rewarding. I found it rewarding personally, and I find it rewarding any small bit that I can play in helping others do that. So that's my answer. I don't know how good it is.
No, I love that. I mean, because it is true. Like I have little Jesus is always right here at my computer with me. And it's just a good reminder for me who I've just now walked back into my faith. Like it's been a lifelong journey, but it's just recently in the last few years is we're like, you know what, dude, you've seen too much, you experienced too much, you felt too much. We need to focus on our energy and who we are and who I am and really do it. It's been so rewarding. But it's funny when you say that because it's a lot of people are afraid to approach life from that viewpoint, and certainly to talk about it and to want to help others. Like I love helping other people. I would rather do that than I would anything else. And if there's a way that I can ever do it, I'm the guy they call and I drop everything and I go. And yet oftentimes you'll see people do the opposite, who you just helped. And that's fine because I don't do it to be rewarded. And it doesn't sound like you do either. How important was that journey in faith for you as we get older in life?
Well, okay. So when I turned 50 and I started this book. So I think that's I don't consider myself old, but I have lived some life. And I think the process of examining your life, it is so incredibly valuable. And that's how I found it for me. Looking back, spending you don't have to publish it. But and you don't have to take a year, but even taking an evening or a weekend and think about your life, where you've come from and the things that marked you and the things that made you and the people who, helped along the way. And the very simple truth that I've known for a while is that I would be dead if Jesus hadn't come and rescued me. That is my story. And I had trauma and abuse and addiction, and I was on my way to the grave, and he came and he got me. That's my story. And that's what changed for me. So looking at my life in the longer picture and just trying to sift it and pull I think our culture is so, we want comfort so much. And we don't want to do the hard thing a lot of time. I mean, me too. I hate the hard thing. I would much rather eat bonbons and read a book. Yeah. But, taking a minute to look at the hard things and what you want to do differently, like looking at how your parents raised you and how you want to raise your children different is something we all kind of naturally do. And we change some things, right? But we don't always change the big patterns that are threads through our lives. So I don't know. I think it's valuable for everybody.
I think it is too, and it's it's fun. I was having this conversation with a buddy of mine the other night. We were talking about faith and different things like that. And believe me, I'm no saint at all. Even to this day, at 56, I'm not a saint. But I think that's the whole point, is to recognize where your faults lie, and you're always trying to be better. I don't hold anything against somebody who they were 20 years ago versus who they are now, because who knows what that journey was like for them, and what kind of growth did they go through. I tell one of my best friends all the time, I hated you when you were younger. Like if you walked out in front of me with a car, I'd probably run over you, because you were that kind of person. But what a lovely human being has grown into. And so I think that speaks exactly right to what you're talking about and how important it is, especially right now. I think we've seen a resurgence of faith. I know that a lot of that is under attack, but yet you've also seen a lot of people more and more speaking out about it. I watched Ella Langley the other night when she won her award for choosing Texas, and I was like, and she mentions God and her faith and stuff. I'm like, there you go, because that was taboo for the longest time. So I am happy to see us kind of getting back to some of that. So what drives you every day? What really drives Jodie every day? When you wake up and it's a new day, who knows what the day brings? What drives you?
I think that after what I would call the worst season of my life, when I recognized for myself, when I recognized that I actually do believe that God is in control. I actually do believe he has assignments for us. So I think what drives me is I wake up and I try to see what his assignment is for me for the day. And I try to, I'm an introvert who is easily overstimulated and I'm sorry to have to admit, but this is an authentic podcast, you said.
That's right.
I don't love meeting new people very often. And then I get into a conversation and it's really fun. But in general, I don't want to go to a new party and meet new people. Yeah. But so for me, trying to just be present and see if I can help whoever God brings across my path. And I work with a lot of writers, and I have a team that I work with, and I'm trying to be helpful to my husband and my daughter and my parents. We live in a multi-generational family, so there's a lot of talking, and when I run out of words pretty fast. So this is an interesting season of my life after living overseas for so many years with very few, zero or very few family members. Now I have a tremendous amount of community in my face, and it's wonderful. But that's what I'm doing is I get up and I try to see how I can be helpful and not totally focused on me, which totally focused on me is my preference and, sort of my proclivity. So it's always let's raise our gaze to what's going on in front of us.
Oh, I love that. And I think that's good. And I love talking about being an introvert, because that was the first 25 years of my life was being introverted, being scared. I was the kind of person who wouldn't talk in public. Like, I was scared of my own shadow. It's that then becoming a wrestler kind of switched that literally overnight. Like, yeah. It's a weird thing. But even now, though, even after I've done that and I've done theater and all these things, I still find myself with that younger version of me in the background at times. Like, I'm the same. I don't care to go to parties and just be a mingle and stuff. I'm like, I think because I don't worry about judgment anymore, but I know it's still there. And then instead of just being able to go up and have a conversation, which is why I love doing this, because this is easier to do. And I know that I don't have to worry about it. I can just focus on the person I'm trying to get to know and talk to. Yeah, that introvertedness it's a crazy thing to overcome, but it can also be a very powerful tool especially in our writing. And if you're a writer, it actually works out really well for being a writer, because you're often isolated. I love the 3-day weekend away. I don't know if my girlfriend would go for that. but I may have to try to run it by
You
her.
can try it.
So what's next on the horizon for you? Do we have
Well,
another book in mind, or what do we got
I
going?
do. Yeah. So I wrote the one about the kidnapping. That was a couple books ago. And I wrote the sequel to it while we were in Turkey. But because of our adoption situation, I wasn't putting anything out into the world. So I have that one ready to go. And I have the third one in that series about half written. So I also write poetry. So I'm getting, I'm putting a poetry book out here, hopefully in the next year. I've got a kids bilingual series that helping parents raise their bilingual children, just giving different resources. So I wrote the first one for my daughter because she left Turkey at almost 4. And I know she's not going to remember it like I don't remember Germany at all. We left when I was 3.5. So I wrote a children's book for her and got a Turkish illustrator to illustrate out of our pictures from Istanbul. And then this series Joy's World started from there. So I'm I have a lot of irons in the fire, a lot of creative ideas.
That's good though. I love hearing that because I feel like sometimes I'm the only one who does that. But yet when I talk to other authors, it seems to be often the case that is true. So I love.
Well, especially like what you said, you found your process. That's gold.
Yeah.
You found what works for you, and you can. I mean, really, the only barriers are your girlfriend wants to see you, and how you have to pay rent or whatever. I would be writing full time too in a cabin in the woods if I could. But
that's a dream.
Yeah. But once you find your process, once you find what works, and you go through the process, because I think the first book is the challenge of most people. Most people, a lot of people have a great idea and they start it and they get 10 pages in or even 100 pages in, and then they stop for 14 years or, it took me 5 years to do my first book. But once you find it lights you up inside, and it's like a full body fulfillment, mind and body fulfillment to put that out there. Man, you just want to keep going, I think.
I agree with you. So this is a strange question maybe, or because it may be just me here, but when your first book came out and people who know you realize you've written a book, what is their response? What was that like? Do you remember any of that? Like, were you in contact with a lot of these people? Did they know what was that experience like for you?
Well, that was, like I said, 20 years ago when there wasn't it wasn't even Amazon, no KDP, no self-publishing. Yeah. So it was a completely different experience from, putting a book out last month when, everywhere you turn around, somebody's putting out a book, which is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. It's wonderful, but it's a different cultural moment. I remember my parents threw a party and all their friends came. I felt so supported. And, my grandma sent me flowers and a note that I still have. I still have on my bookcase over here, so it was a big deal. And then I worked with a book launch coach this time, and I realized, all of his strategies work for first-time authors. They don't really work when you're putting out your 6th book and your friends are like, great, but yes, we'll buy this one too.
Yeah. Well, and that is so funny too. That I used to have a small independent publishing company, and I did that for about 5 years until I just got so annoyed that I was like, this is not going to work. And the reason being is because I realized real quick that authors believe that in this day and age, especially new authors, believe that once I write a book, it's going to become a bestseller and I don't have to do anything. I'm like, and I tell each one, I'm like, look, when you publish it, you still have all the work to do. That's where the work begins. The joy is your writing part, but it becomes your job after that to promote it. Mm-hmm. And I only had 2 authors out of 30 ever promote their stuff. And lo and behold, shockingly, they've actually sold lots of copies of their stuff. And it is amazing to me that it's hard, and it's a hard journey. But I love hearing that story because I've only had two family members support me in my writing. My mom and my son. That's it. Now I've got friends who are like, dude, I'm all in. And I'm surprised they know how to read, but then they're surprised I know how to write. So it really works well both ways. So, it's one of those type of deals. What is the most joy you do get out of writing? What is your favorite part of the process?
Creation.
Oh yeah.
Coming up with a story. I just and I get ideas, I'm sure you do too, from all of life. And I'm interested in a lot of different kind of I haven't written anything in the same genre yet. I mean, mine are all over the place. And right now I don't know if you've seen the movie Hail Mary.
Oh my God, so good.
I read it 3 or 4 years ago. I read it when it first came out, because I really like Andy Weir. The book is, of course, phenomenal. Anyway, so I was rereading it a couple weeks ago because it's been a few years, and he mentioned a science fact, as he does, and I was so taken with it that I'm like creating a whole new science fiction story around this one fact, and that I love it. Like, I love this part. And then when you very first start to build it out, I love hearing that you're an outline person. I am not. I just kind of, people always laugh at me. Like, my characters never do what I want them to. I say, well, you're going to do this. And they go, but I love that part of creating. And then these ideas come out of nowhere. And then, that would be such a great twist. And how can I get there? And then, it's a lot of work, as you know, but I think that would be my favorite part. What is your favorite part?
It's the creation. Can I create this story that I'm going to love and want to read myself, even though I wrote it, but that I know that this is what interests me in life. This is like how I like watching my movies or reading my books, because every book I write almost has a twist in it. Like, I don't want if the reader ever just truly sees it coming, like, they can guess it and go, I thought it might go this way, but I wasn't sure. That's fine. It was like, dude, I knew since page 2 that this is where we were going with this whole thing right here. That's disheartening a little bit to me. And I never want my audience to feel that. I want them, first of all, I want them to be so taken with the journey that they're not even thinking about it at the time until we get there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't know how good of a writer I am. I don't know if I'm just so bad I should never pick up or type another key, or if I'm really good and I should keep on doing it, because I don't trust anybody who tells me I'm good. I just don't believe it. I don't have that faith. I just know I enjoy it and I don't want to stop doing it.
Yeah. I'm sure it's more the second than the first, but I know that feeling very well.
I don't know, because it's always the tone of surprise when they read something, right? It's like, you wrote this? I'm like, well, all right, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I do know the English language a little bit. Yep. Don't let the face go for you.
No, I think it's just that when people know you and in all your whatever, I mean, and then because we all talk off the cuff like we do with our and our, sidetracks and when you have time to write it and edit it and fix it exactly the way you want. I mean, we could all do that if we took the time and, anyway, I know what you're talking about. I've heard that as well. Oh, wow.
It's like, okay. But it's funny thing is, I never take offense to it. I make jokes about it because that's just my personality.
Yeah.
I just don't take life seriously. And I've been told by several exes that's a terrible trait to have, but I'm like, well, I'm not unhappy. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to say. But I do find when we're out here writing it, to me, and I know this is probably so self-serving, but I love being a part of the author world and being part of a writer's world, because most people, as many books are being published out there, still it's such a small, tighter group of people that don't do this, because writing is hard. I mean, it's not easy. How do you feel about being part of that community?
I love it. I really love it. I love talking to other writers. I especially love first-time authors. You left the independent author space, independent publishing space. I'm still in the independent publishing space, so I work with new authors all the time, and I love when it's their first book because they have poured their heart and passion into it, and they have, they've taken their shot, and they want to do a good job, and they want to make it better. And we help them make it better, and I find a lot of joy in that because I think you mentioned earlier, what your particular background is, your particular story. If I'm just meeting you, I have no idea what your story is. I have no idea where you come from. I'm looking at you and I'm judging you for, like we all do, I'm making some assumptions about you. And I think story is the most important thing we have, and telling it to each other. You don't have to write a book about it, but if you do, and someone gives you the honor of picking it up and giving you 5 or 6 or 10 hours of their life to read about your story, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. And it helps us. It helps us be better humans to give somebody the respect and the honor of listening to their story.
I agree. The storytelling is the oldest art form, literally the oldest art form on this planet is storytelling. Life has been based around it. And it does make me feel, when I see somebody has read my book or they give me a feedback, and whenever you can wring a review out of somebody, it's great. But it does make you feel good that they spent time and their money, but more importantly to me, it's the time, the investment in what you're creating and what you're writing. When you're met with people and they meet you, and I don't know how many book signings you've done, when you're at one of these and they tell you that stuff, how hard is it for you to take a compliment? And I asked this for a reason, but I'm curious.
I would say I am better at taking a compliment now at 52 than I have ever been in life.
There you go.
So it has not been an easy thing. I'm trying to think. There is somebody who said to me, "Accept the bouquet," years ago, and I think of that. Because this is, I think we devalue our own efforts. I mean, I think that's a human trait, and you especially in writing your own story, whether it's your personal story or whether it's a story that you have made up and poured your blood and sweat and tears into, it's so personal and so vulnerable that you don't trust yourself, and you struggle to trust your friends, or your family, who say, "Oh, this is great. Well, you love me," So I have gotten, there's a reason nobody's ever heard of me. I have not sold very many books, and that's just life. But this last book, I'm getting a little bit more feedback than I ever have. And I had somebody recognize me off of my author picture. It's never happened to me before.
That's awesome.
And it was really, I'm not going to lie. It was awesome. "Hey, I think I recognize you. Did you write blah, blah, blah?" "Yes, I did."
I don't know how I feel about that. I'd probably lock up right there.
I was stutter, but that person telling me that they really were impacted by the book, I accepted that bouquet. Yeah. Wow. It was not somebody I'm blood related to.
That does matter. That matters a whole lot. My girlfriend, and she was telling me, she's like, "Well, I wrote you a good review." I said, "I know. And you always tell me how proud you are of me. And I appreciate all of that. I'm not saying I do not." I said, "But the difference is that you know me, you live with me, you love me. So you're hardly going to bash me. All right. That's not something that's probably going to happen. Whether you do that consciously or subconsciously or not, it's not going to happen." I said, "So I value a stranger's opinion more because they have nothing to gain. There's no ulterior motive. There's nothing. It's just them and their raw, true feelings. If I get a review from somebody and they say, 'Hey, it started off a little slow, but I really enjoyed it by the time I got here. I've been looking for a new author,' which is a review I just got. I'm like, this is my go-to. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, that melts the heart a little bit.
Way to
I'm
go.
like, this is why I write.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Yeah.
but that's why I write. Is I'm like
Yeah.
that feeling that they spent 500 and something pages to read this novel and go, I enjoyed my time with this book.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
It's so gratifying.
So do you still, so I noticed you were talking about working with independent authors. Do you still do that? Is that part of a business that you have, or what is that?
Yeah. I co-founded an independent publishing company called Blue Hat Publishing. And we are just coming up on 3 years. We've had about 100 authors that we've helped. We haven't published that many, but we have that many in progress, and it is so fun. It's a completely new season of life, completely different than anything else I've ever done. When we came home from Turkey, I had been in that stint overseas for 15 years, I think, 14, 15 years, something like that. Completely different skill set. I'm thinking, what kind of a job am I going to get? I didn't even know what to apply for. I'd been out of the workforce, and it turns out, man, cross-cultural communication, cross-cultural living really sets you up with some skills that are transferable. It was hard for me to figure it out at the beginning. So now we're at 3 years, and we're just growing because so many people want to write. So many people want to put their story out there. It's a cultural moment, and I always tell them, like, it is a great time to be a writer. All you need is time or money. And that did not used to be the case. I mean, when I started and further back, it was not the case, but there's no gatekeepers anymore. No. There is certainly the, New York mechanism, but you can go around them now. And you can put out a beautiful book. You can put out a book that looks like it came from New York with just a certain amount of time or a certain amount of money. Phenomenal. And it's just wonderful. And then there's, so many scammers in our space. So we don't advertise at all. We have a bursting business because of referral. Like, that's awesome. We don't take any royalties. Like, we're 3 authors who built a company that we wish we had. So we walk you through the million things, but we don't take your royalties. We don't take your rights. We're a services company. This is our price. There's no surprises. And then we will walk you through the process, and you get a beautiful book at the end. And I mean, there are so few competitors working with integrity, I would say, in the space.
Yeah. I've been looking for a PR company because I really want to go all out with Black Ridge because it's my new one. I just dropped it. And I was like, I know that I'm going to do all the right PR stuff, but oh my God, the amount of ISIS, is how I call them, the scammers out there who just come in and like, we can help you, and it's only going to cost blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I already know I have to pay money to promote my book. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for somebody who can tell me, hey, this is where we need to head. You need to head here. I need somebody who can point me in those directions. I'm like, y'all are just trying to take my money. I can do that on my own. I can spend my own money.
I mean, and you have a lot of information. You have a lot of, you've gone through a lot of the process. Most of our authors are first-time authors, no experience, and they're lost. And I get emails from our authors regularly. Hey, so-and-so reached out and they said blah, blah, blah. And I said, no, scam, know? And I hate that as well. I just want to let's just work with integrity with each other. I mean, that's another, just to tell you what's out there. Like a friend of mine runs a business publishing company, and she and one of her right-hand gal and I were complaining at a retreat about just what you said. Like, okay, I would like to promote my book. I have a budget. but what am I supposed to do? And all of our authors in both of our companies are getting scammed left and right. And they're getting like, if you'll only pay $1,500 for this, and they don't know that this means nothing. So we put together a little PR company, and we're like, square boxes and simple. Here are 6 things that we know work. It may or may not result in, it's never going to result in the New York Times, but it may result in, actual sales, and it may result in whatever. But it's so frustrating to sit in our chairs and to watch people get scammed who are just trying to take a swing, right, with something so valuable and vulnerable. And obviously justice is an issue for me.
Well, because there's so many of these people getting away with taking advantage of them, and they're out there. I had one the other day, the one I was talking about. It's funny you said $1,500 because that's exactly what he quoted me. And I told my girlfriend, she was sitting across my studio from me. She said, "What are you doing? Because you're grinning." I said, "Well, I got this guy here who's trying to sell me that his PR firm is legit." I said, "He's about to offer me $1,500 is all I need to pay him, and then he wants to schedule a call." He said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to let him schedule the call." So, of course, he did. But I'd already done all my research. I already knew they were a scammer group. And then when I finally answered a couple of days later, after I just made him kept calling because he was ready, because he just knew I was ready to buy. And it's because I had led him on that way. I'm not going to lie about it. I don't feel guilty either. And so he finally, I said, "You know what? I just don't have the money. I'm so sorry. I don't have a benefactor anymore." He bailed. I mean, I lied, but it's just like, you just lied to that man. I'm like, well, he was trying to scam me. I don't feel guilty. I'm like, if I lie to you, it's hard for me to live with myself. But this guy, I just don't have a problem with it, because he has done scammed probably 100 other people, and their whole company has. And that's on the low side of it. So I commend you guys for what y'all are doing there. I think that's beautiful, because it is hard. It's one of the reasons we kind of said, you know what, we're gonna shut this down. And Doc, who was one of my best friends, is a doctor, and I publish all his stuff still. I just published his new book, and we talk about that. I said, I'm only going to publish for people who I know are serious right now, because I got so frustrated before. And my other buddy who I published for, he's like, "You need to get back into it." I'm like, I want to, but I enjoy writing so much. I said, maybe when I slow down a little bit, I'll get back into that and kind of do it. But I don't know. I love what y'all are doing, and I'm glad. And any way that I can support that in your company, you just let me know, because I'm all for that. I think that's great.
Well, send us anybody who has more money than time. I mean, that's the,
I got
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we are
Yeah.
like, that's what we're a paid for services company, but I'm really proud of what we're doing. And I'm
Good.
really, really irritated at some of the companies that are popping up, and people are paying $6,000-$8,000 for AI editing and AI covers. And if you know anything, it's nobody's fault for wanting to get their book out. But if you know anything, you know what they're doing, and you can recognize it.
That's right.
I just burning passion.
And that's really the problem too, is that, like, I use AI all the time as a tool, but you can't use AI as you. And and perpetuating that as who you are, because it's not, and it's easy to see. Like, I did that Black Ridge book cover on AI. The guy taught me how to write properly. Like, I never knew how to use it. And I was like, well, I need to learn, because I don't know, I can't draw, and I don't know any artists. All my friends are actually stupid, I guess, or no talented. They're just musicians. So I don't know what to do. He said, look, I said, but I don't want anything janky. He said, let me teach you how to use a tool. He said, if you will look at it as a tool, you're fine. He said, now, I can't promise you to do anything else. I said, well, I've already seen the other side of it. That doesn't help me. I said, but I need a tool to help me. He said, well, this is what you do. And so I learned how to use it. But the problem is that so many people will go, hey, I need a copy of this. Can you do this right here, but put my name on it and be done with it? So I think that's the devil's side of it. And they'll build whole companies, because there's courses that teach you that. if you don't really want to have to work another day in your life and you don't have to do all the work. I'm like, yeah, but when you read it and you look at it's the same thing. You're like, you can tell this is a mechanical software that did this. This is not, or digital software that did this. It's not a real person. So when you're talking to these authors about that, how do you combat that in their head?
Well, one thing we've done is we've drawn a really hard line with human creativity in the words.
Yeah.
So the words, we don't let AI touch the words. We don't let AI write. We don't let AI edit. A lot of our authors are coming in like you with a mocked up cover. They said, I want it to be something like this. I don't know if you know, you can't copyright that. You can't copyright anything. You can't trademark anything. So it's there's some things about AI that with the legislation that is falling behind anyway. So we create the cover, the old fashioned way, based on the design that you like with, we'll give you some professional advice on why tweaking this and that. So we have a really hard line on the words and the output, the product. We could even at this point design a really good book in AI, but we're unwilling to feed our authors' intellectual property into AI. Do you know what I mean? So that's why so we've drawn that line. But I'm the COO. I run the back end. I do royalties. Yeah. I'm using AI like the Dickens for that. And I just made us an author portal, and I've made us an admin dashboard and things that connect to our Shopify store and let the author know what their sales are, all of that kind of thing. I think let's go. We do not want to be the horse and buggy, but we as a company value the human spark in a story. And AI can write, and it's writing better and better, but it does not have the spark of human creativity. It can iterate, copy, but it cannot create. And I think, in my opinion, we're going to get to 90% AI slop and top 10% human creativity cream. And there's a lot of people who are okay with that, and that's fine. But this is what I want to read, and this is what I want to write. And there's enough of us, I think, that human writing will prevail.
I think so too, because you can just tell it when you're reading it, because it sounds robotic. It sounds just, I'm like, first of all, nobody talks that way. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And the descriptors are usually off. And there's so many problems with it. But you do find a lot of people. He who shall not be named, came up to me with a fiction book and said, hey, I wrote this, and can you look at it, edit it for me? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'll open it up. I was like, dude, first of all, I'm like, how much Chat GPT did you use for this one? Because it sounds like all of it.
Yeah.
He was like, I mean, that's the idea. I'm like, no. That's not the idea. If you're going to write.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's okay. You don't have to write. If you're going to write.
But if you're going to write. And if you don't, then that's fine. You want somebody to help you write a story. Like, I don't mind ghostwriting. Yeah. But let's be clear as to what you're doing, because you try to put that out and then they're going to lap that and go, what in the world is this? Because it comes across that.
And there's a lot of, I don't know if you found this to be true, but we have found there's so much misinformation and misunderstanding on what AI does and what it doesn't. And we've had several authors write their book, and then right before they send it to us, their friend says, hey, just throw it into Chat GPT and it'll smooth it out and, edit it for you. And it rewrites it. It doesn't change 3 words that were typos. It rewrites it and it smooths it out. And so it sounds exactly like AI. So I think there's just, what a fun time to be alive. Another giant transition. And let's, the rules are behind, but we can make our own rules and figure out ethically what we value and move forward that way.
Yeah, and I think you really have to, and you do have to make that call. So I'm glad y'all did, because I think it lends those authors would be so much more proud of their work at the end of the day, knowing that this is something I did versus I'll let a machine write it and I'll put my name on it and here we go.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I use AI now every day. Like I am robustly trying to build some things.
I do too.
But I just am uncomfortable with, putting your story together and letting a robot, write it.
Because it's not you. I mean, you can give it parameters, and that's great. I mean, because I will use it a lot for my outlines if I need to. Like I will feed my outline in and go, all right, here we are. This is my outline. Here's my first 10. What am I looking at? And I use it for a tool, but it does zero of my writing. That's got to be me.
Yeah.
It comes across if it doesn't. Me and my buddy, my doctor friend, did an experiment on that. It's like, all right, I'm going to write the first chapter of something, and then I'm going to give it the same stuff, all the basics, and see what happens. I was like, look at this. Look at this. You see the difference? Lifeless versus
lifeless, and not and again, no spark. Like no giant plot change in chapter 27, because that would be inventive.
Exactly. We can't have that. I mean, but that's I think some of it.
Well, what are you working on now?
I have, oh my God. I did a stupid thing. I'm saying stupid. So I wrote a book called Bodie Bagsley and The Curse of Pumpkin Song, because as a child, I loved the whimsical nature of Halloween and that artwork that came out then when we were young, because we're about the same age. But the whimsical view of it back then, and I love that. I've always I love that view. So I wanted something that said, hey, I want to attach that, and I want to attack my stories from that point of view. I want to create that world. And then I love J.K. Rowling and how she created Harry Potter with such a vibrant view, and like it breathed and everything was great. And she didn't try to just compress it into a small little cutesy story. I mean, every creature and thing in there, and even inanimate objects, had a life to them. And that's what I wanted. And so when I did that, I was like, but I don't want to be Harry Potter too. That's not what I want to be here. I want to be, Bodhi is a different world. And so I had the idea, like, I would like that world influenced our actual beliefs here in our real world. So what if this thing existed right beside us? And so I wrote the first book, and it was good. It was pretty good. People loved it. The ones who read it, the few who read it. And, but I wanted it to be a whole series. And so I'm writing book 2 now, but I got 2 chapters in and said, you know what, buddy? We need a compendium of the world, so I'll know how to keep stuff straight. Well, that turned into a 3-month journey of writing a 500-page compendium for only 2 books so far out of a 5-book series. But up to the end of the compendium, and I started outlining the book now as I see it based on the world I created. Because as you're creating a compendium, all these new ideas come flooding in because you got to flesh the world out. And so the whole basis of the second book changed. And I'm so happy it did, because I'm 6 chapters in. This book is already massive. And it'll probably be the longest thing I've written. I mean, and that's fine. I don't mind it, but it's a work of passion and love. And I'm taking my absolute time. I heard one time that you should strive to write about 6 pages a day is a great, good momentum. If you can get 6 pages, what could you do? And after I get done with my outlines and stuff, my writing goes up to at least 10 plus, because I'm just locked in. I can't stop writing once I start. It is a drug. And so that's what I'm working on, and that's my goal. So I'm hoping to have this great 5-book series that if only 27 people read, well, 27 people got to enjoy this world.
That is awesome. Thank you for telling me about it. That is really, word, that's a big project.
It is, and that's something I would never have done before and thought of doing. Well, that's not true. I've thought of doing it, but I never thought I could do it. And I've become so assured of who I am now. That's like, okay, buddy, we can do this. I talk to myself all the time, and I hear, what'd you say? I'm like, just still talking to myself. So, that's that sort of thing. But it's just one of those things. Do you ever talk to yourself while you're riding?
Yeah, I do.
Thank God I'm not going crazy. Not the only
No,
one.
you're not. No, it's a creative tick.
It is. It really is. Oh my God, we've been here almost an hour.
Oh, yikes.
I've kept you for a
Lovely.
long time.
Lovely conversation. I just
Look,
loved it. Thank you.
I love having you on here. I will go take a look at your company, by the way. And yeah, I get asked all the time for people, do you publish anymore? I'm like, I don't. I only do that for select people, and I don't even advertise. I just help out. But I will send them your way.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Because I love what you're doing with Blue Hat. I think that's awesome. And I think these people need good, honest people who are going to help them and steer them in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. We're having a good time. And doing things the right way is its own reward.
It is. I sleep better at night. A whole lot better. But thank you so much for doing this today, Jodie. I really appreciate it. It's so good getting to know you. You've been wonderful. And thank you for coming on this silly show and talking about this stuff with me. I enjoyed it.
I've loved it. Thanks for the invitation.
Anytime. If you ever want to come back, I would always love to have you back. So y'all got something going on. And I will tell you this too, and we're still on the air and it's still recording, so I can't walk this back. And I'm not going to edit it out. But if you ever have anything you need promoted or advertised or anything like that you want me to do on my podcast, you just let me know. Send it to me. We'll play it during the things. It ain't hurting my feelings. I don't mind helping out any way I can. So do that, please.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thanks for coming today.
Okay.
All right. Have a good one.
You too.
Woo, folks. Wow. That was a long one, but a great one. You can tell how passionate I am about talking to other authors and seeing what they've got their experience. And talking about Jodie's experience right there. Can you imagine living in other countries, doing that? Having Spain, Turkey, back to America, and then all that life has in between, and then being able to write that down and share that with the world. And not only that, but getting a blessing for $1 in all of that. It's amazing the places life will take you if you let it. Don't be afraid of it. Go do it. That's the whole point of life. You got one shot that you know of. If you got a dream, go for it. Do it. And if you plan on writing a book, you need to hit Jodie up in Blue Hat and let's go. Get somebody who's willing to help you and do it the right way. You have been listening to the FAFO Podcast. Facts, truth, no BS. Let's have it go.
Four on the floor, have a tank of gas. Does he boots on the wood, let the whiskey pass? I ain't preaching from a pulpit, I'm talking from the scar. You can dress up a lie, but it won't get far. They call it toxic.